Hello YouTube and welcome to Synthetic Oil Info. My name is Tom Brown and today we want to talk about AMSOIL's newest automatic transmission fluids. They recently released two new fluids in the original equipment line, meaning that they are intended to meet manufacturer's recommended change interval requirements. The first one is in the red bottle that meets the traditional, a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker automatic transmission fluid requirements. So you see it here, multi-vehicle, domestic, and imported. And then the second one is the lighter viscosity, a little bit thinner, fuel-efficient formula that is designed to meet many of the new Dexron and Mercron low viscosity fluid requirements. Just like we've talked about with the engine oil and what the manufacturers are doing there by going down to lighter viscosity, lower viscosity oils such as 0W20 and 5W20 instead of the traditional 5W30, 10W30. They're going to those lighter oils to try to get better fuel economy out of their vehicles. Well, they're doing the same thing with the automatic transmission fluid. They're going to a lighter transmission fluid to try to squeeze out just a tenths of a mile per gallon difference on these vehicles. And when they measure that across their entire fleet, which is what happens when they do their corporate average fuel economy or CAFE measurements, every little bit helps. And so that's what they're doing here is they're going to those lighter fluids, lower viscosity fluids, to try to let that transmission produce a little bit less friction, make everything in there turns over just a little bit easier with those lighter or lower viscosity fluids. So that's why you're starting to see those. These two new fluids from AMSOIL meet the vast majority of all of the transmission fluid requirements that are out there, or specifications that are out there on the market today. Two exceptions. It does not meet constant velocity transmission or CVT requirements. Those take a very special fluid, nor does it meet dual clutch requirements. Again, those are very special transmissions, and they have unique oil requirements that not even these two very broad spectrum oils will meet. AMSOIL does not currently manufacture an oil for CVT or dual clutch, but as those technologies become more prevalent across the automotive industry, look for AMSOIL to add those as the number of vehicles with those high technology transmissions starts to saturate the market even farther. But again, back on the OE designation here, so if your car has a recommended change interval for the transmission fluid, the automatic transmission fluid of, let's say, 100,000 miles, then that's exactly what these two fluids respectively are designed to meet. Whereas AMSOIL's Signature Series automatic transmission fluid can greatly extend beyond that manufacturer recommended change interval. These two fluids are designed to be changed at whatever your book says. But these are a much higher quality fluid than the fluids that you're going to find at most of your repair shops or on the shelf at most retail places. Most people put very little thought into engine oil, and they put even less thought into their transmission. They go into if the transmission is low, or they're going to change it if they ever do. They walk into a store and they grab the first thing that's got the lowest price on it that says it meets that spec, whether it's Dexron 3 or Dexron 6 or Mercron 5 or Mercron SP. That all just becomes gobbledygook code for most people, and they don't pay much attention to it. And the problem is the transmission is the second most expensive component of your car, right behind the engine. Your engine could be a $5,000 to $15,000 engine, depending on the vehicle, and your transmission is not far behind it. It's coming in at around $3,000 to $5,000 to completely overhaul or replace that transmission, especially with these newer 6, 7, 8-speed transmissions that are coming out in these new modern vehicles. And just like the oil is the lifeblood to your engine, the transmission fluid is the lifeblood of your automatic transmission. It does everything inside that transmission. It allows the transmission to function. It does all the work because it actually is the fluid inside the transmission that is transferring energy in many cases with the torque converter and the hydraulic pump and everything in there. Very elaborate, very complicated system, and oil is the lifeblood of it. And these lower quality, cheaper oils, when that transmission heats up, when you need that transmission to work the most, when you're pulling a heavy load or you're in the mountains or it's really hot temperatures, and you're putting a heavy load on that transmission. Maybe you're in a pickup and you've got it loaded to the max, towing a trailer up in the mountains or something like that, and you're stressing that transmission to the very edge of its capabilities. Those cheaper, inferior oils are simply going to cook off. They're going to burn up, and they're going to leave behind a residue of varnish inside that transmission that's going to start very quickly plugging up all of the very small holes and orifices in that transmission that control where the fluid is supposed to go as your transmission shifts through different gears and the torque converter locks and unlocks. All of that is controlled by a very elaborate electrical and hydraulic system, and it's all based on the fact that automatic transmission fluid can flow to the right location at the right time. So putting in a cheap, inferior transmission fluid is a surefire way that you're going to have a repair bill down the road when you expect it the least. I know on my wife's car, a little 07 Mazda that had a 100,000 mile change interval recommendation, I've pulled the transmission dipstick on that thing when it had about 50,000 miles on it, and the oil looks still really good. It's got a 5-speed automatic transmission, and so I thought, okay, I'll just monitor that for a while. And I pulled that dipstick again at about 75,000 miles, and that original equipment fluid that was in there, not AMSOIL OE, but this was the original fluid from the factory. By the time that car had 75,000 miles on it, that transmission fluid was almost black. And unfortunately on that car, you cannot replace the filter without disassembling the transmission. So all I could do was drain out the pan of the transmission, and about 3 quarts came out each time. So I did that about 4 times to get all of that old dirty oil out of there, and I put in the correct AMSOIL automatic transmission fluid. And boy, what a difference it made. The transmission shifted better. Just everything about the way that transmission behaved was much better. And now I'm also pushing off a very expensive repair bill. I don't ever intend to have a repair bill on that transmission because the number one cause of transmission repairs is worn out oil, worn out automatic transmission fluid, because that fluid stops protecting and stops cooling and starts leaving behind that gum and varnish in there, and it just ruins that transmission. And so that's what keeps transmission shops in business, is people not changing that oil. And even if your transmission, or even if your owner's manual calls for a 100,000 mile or longer transmission fluid change interval, you need to start looking at that fluid anytime you get up above 50,000 miles on your vehicle. And when that dark pink fluid starts to turn, gray or black, or starts to have a burnt smell to it, you are already in a danger zone, and you are doing damage to the components of your transmission. So get that old fluid out of there as fast as you can. Take it to a repair shop or take it to a transmission shop and order your automatic transmission fluid through us. Get the correct transmission fluid for your vehicle. This, like I said, this is the OE fluid, so it's designed to meet that change interval that's in your owner's manual, or step up to the Signature Series. I'll cover that in a separate video. But if you do a lot of towing or high performance driving or a big heavy vehicle or a car that you drive really hard that has an automatic transmission, you really need to look at the Signature Series transmission fluid. It's a little bit more expensive, but it is worth every penny of it if you can push off or completely avoid those automatic transmission repair bills that none of us will ever want to budget for that. You know, $3,000 to $5,000 repair bill. It's just not something that we count on having to do. But all of a sudden it crops up. The car won't shift right, you know, won't run right. And all of that could have been prevented by changing your transmission fluid when it needed to be changed. As usual, we will post the link below for you to order this directly from AMSOIL and have it shipped right to your house, and take it out to your favorite installer and have them put it in if you don't do it yourself. And again, my name is Tom Brown. This is Synthetic Oil Info. Check us out on Facebook at Synthetic Oil Info as well. Our website is MinutemanPerformance.com, and our email is info@MinutemanPerformance.com. That's it for now. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.